What about coming out to your mom and my parents and extended family, siblings and in-laws? How was that?
Well, it was easy because I never did it. No, I mean, on some level, right, with what you do, I'm sort of grouped with you. So I have not had to have the discussion of this is what I think or things are different now on that sort of initial level. I have had to have difficult conversations with family member, well, really my mom, only really my mother.
Talk about that. Do you have any stories to tell there? Or
so just amidst us pulling back and the excommunication letter and that process, she had a lot of fear about, our children, and what was to become of them. And don't I want them to be married in the temple? And don't I, and this is what's really important is I don't feel like all relationships deserve the same level of intimacy and care in talking about these things. There are some people who want to know, first of all, and some people who really don't. They ask, they won't ask, or they ask and they really don't want to know, and you can usually feel that. And then there are people who you shouldn't trust with your, they may want to know, but they don't deserve to have those vulnerable parts of you, So with my mom, I was actually in a state with her where I felt pretty good about our relationship, so I felt like I could speak openly. And so I just openly discussed, we're the same parents, we have the same values, our intention and why we live those values are different. It's not for salvation or because we fear, we'll be damned, but it's because they're our values and we believe in them inherently, and we believe they build a meaningful, healthy life. And so I would just talk through each thing, and really subtly, I listened more than I talked. And I feel like I assuaged fear. I tried to assuage fear as best as I could. And I didn't overly own it. I couldn't overly own what she was going to do with what I said. But I did spend some time communicating with her, hey, look, we still have all this in common. We're still the same. Because we really were in the fundamental ways of like what we valued, And so really it was explaining nuance of, without getting into history, the idea of we believe in unconditionally loving our children. We believe in having our children choose. And yes, if our children decide that they want to be in the church, we support and love them, And we hope we've raised children who in the church wouldn't harm people, who wouldn't, take part in harming people, but that they could use the good of the church for good in their lives. And just sort of talking through some of those parts.
How did your mom respond?
In the moment, she seemed, at different times. So excommunication, I feel like the levels of anxiety were higher. It was, your children will be judged, your children will be, which was true. And so it was just more about holding it and talking through sort of how we were going to respond to that and what we felt about that and how unfortunate we felt like that was ourselves. So a lot of listening. There was a lot of listening, a lot of empathy, some clarifying as to like, well, here's a new value we have, and it's that we don't, anyway, we're less fear-based, right? We're more connection with our kids. We're more, anyway. And so I feel like it was at times mixed, and sometimes there were boundaries if it got too negative or particularly about you or choices you were making. then I would boundary a little bit more.
What do you mean by boundary?
So if in my conversation with her, if I'm out with her and she would maybe question media attention or question different things that you were doing or in some of your intentions there, I would set a boundary, meaning, Mom, I really don't want to talk about why John's doing what he's doing in this way. So if you want to change the subject, that's awesome. About now. And she took that pretty well when I would boundary. Sometimes it was just letting off steam. I don't know why he does this. I don't know why, doesn't he see it affects your private, that it affects you and your life? And I would say, hey, Mom, this is something between John and I appreciate your love for me. And that's all we have today, And so that's what I mean about boundary. I tried to do it in a loving way, but I also sort of made a point to shut it down because at that point, my energy was limited and I didn't have a whole lot extra to hold negativity about our situation or more fear or more anxiety.
What about my siblings and parents, coming out to them?
I've never had a conversation with your parents or your siblings about my coming out or how I feel.
Why not?
They've never asked.